What we have here is an Aria guitar. It's a AMB36 for those enthusiasts. It's a plastic back guitar, a bit like an Ovation, but in my opinion, better than an Ovation, even though it's about a quarter of the price. Because Ovation have, or maybe have had, I don't know whether they fixed the problem, tops cracking a lot because it's plastic back. They would use very fine wood on the top, but use very fine struts underneath, which would tend to crack, and it cracks the whole way down it. Nice sounding guitars, the Ovations, but to me, I wouldn't touch them. Second reason is that this is a plastic back guitar, and if you have to have a plastic back guitar, this is the type to get, because it can sit on your knee. Ovations slide off, roll like that there. This has a nice unit here that actually pops in and out very neatly, and has all the mechanics inside it, and it has a battery compartment. Haven't checked the battery yet. I think it's dead, the battery, but that's what batteries do. It clicks in. It's come to me for a cleanup and a setup. I don't see anything drastic about it, except for this is very much a copy of an Ovation. The thing that there's a bit of plastic coming off that because it had one of those nullifiers or dullifiers to stop resonance, and it peels off but that's easy fixed. Action slightly high, needs to be adjusted. I think the electrics need to be looked at too, because sometimes when you plug it in, there's no sound coming from it. But overall, I like this guitar because of the effect of the wood. If you look at the wood effect on it, it's not just a plain guitar, it's got natural wood effect in it. It's very pretty. I don't like the fact that they've got 2 screws in it. I don't like screws in guitars. But when I get underneath, we'll see how well that's reinforced underneath, because the screws may be okay if they're reinforced. But overall, it's not in bad condition. Frets are in good condition. So I'll investigate more deeply. Check the truss rod works before anything else, and let you see if I see any problems with it. Strings are in a lousy state. Looks like it was owned by a coal miner, but I do know that it's owned by a professional musician, but not used that much. Strings could do with being replaced, but it's not a much used guitar, so I'll find out from the owner if he wants them replaced. I'm very precious about my strings. You run out of strings very quickly in this game, and you soon find out that no strings left. Everything looks to be okay though. All right, ciao. Polished, leveled and oiled frets, looking nice. Nice fretboard this actually. The nut is real bone. Let me just adjust the contrast here so you can see it. You see the stains in it? That is a sure sign of a real bone. You can't just see it too clearly. Oh, excuse me. You just can't see it too clearly in ordinary light, but unfortunately that can't be cleaned out. You'd lose the whole nut. But it sounds lovely, so that's the main thing. Each till their own, like love. Now, if you look at that bass string, the E string sitting on the nut, you'll see it's touching the whole way along. And I like the string to touch just at one aspect of the nut. In other words, let me just get a little bit of a machine here, right? I would prefer this nut to be more at an angle like that, not as extreme as that, so that this pit's touching the nut and not the whole thing. That helps the intonation. Now, fortunately, I also like the string to be further down into the nut than that for vibration purposes. I do have some room to maneuver. Let me just see. So I can bring it down a little bit, and I can shape it a little bit better that way. So I will do that and come back to you. I don't know whether you'll notice a difference or not, but I have shaped the nut and I have reduced the string into the nut more by filing it down. I use this method where you press on the third string and you just need to see a hair's breadth, if anything, on the first string. And that gives you, now that can give you really good action, but you have to be careful you don't screw up the guitar, then you have to change the nut. But that gives you really good action. But the thickness of a sheet of paper, it should move about freely when the third fret's pulled, and that's just moving about freely. So that's the guideline I use, and we have a nice guitar sound now. What you have is the more of a sharpness you can put onto the string, the less your tuning begins about there then, instead of across the whole thing. So you get a nice not sharp tuning, but a nice equal tuning as you do that. Okay. Okay, this is the Aria guitar. It had no electrics. Electrics weren't working because there was a wire broken inside. The plug at the bottom was broken as well and loose, and there was some dirty connections in here. But overall it's a nice sound guitar. Also, I had to adjust the truss rod because the action was very bad down there. It's not great even still, but it's not, well, it's okay. It's okay. I had to file down the nut on the last three bass strings because they were too high and it was hard to press it up. But it has this kind of electronics on the edge, which is an Ovation Electronics system. It actually works very well. Have a listen. Boost. Has an equal boost, gives you another rocky rolly sound, and it has volume control, equalizer, adjuster, and it works by a pop-in system. You press the button and it pops up, and inside there you can pop the body out. One side pops in and the other pops in, and you got a guitar. It's also got a dual jack at the bottom, so that as soon as you plug in, it notifies the electronics to switch on, which I think is quite clever. It also has a tuner, but I could never get it to work. I think you have to hold it in. I'm sure there's a clever way. Oh look, let's have a look. Oh yeah, it switches off the electrics. So it allows you to tune without going through the amplifier. And it says it's in tune. Hey, that's a nice guitar. Let me look. Hey, yeah, it actually is not a great tuner because it tells you the note. Yeah, it tells you the note, but it doesn't tell you how far you're off it, but it tells you pretty close to it, as you know. Let me just see if I can switch it back off again. How do you switch it back off? Oh, I think I did. That's it, there you can hear it. But it's quite nice. Better than the Ovations. I'm not that fond of the Ovation guitars. But if you look at how shiny and flat that top is, compared to the Ovation guitars who have slats of wood almost, but it's just they use a bad wood, you know. So quite like it. Okay, that's all I can tell you. Okay, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.